Support for Radio Friends comes from OsteoStrong. Improvements in bone density, strength, and power can be achieved by weekly 5-minute no-sweat sessions on their 4-spectrum machines. These isometric robotic machines safely emulate high-impact loading on different parts of the skeletal system, which stimulates activity in bone-building cells. Balance and agility can be improved by 2-minute sessions on vibration plates. Every session is supervised by a trained coach. Learn more on Facebook or call to set up a complimentary wellness assessment and session.
Good morning and welcome to Radio Friends on Thursday, October the 5th. My friend sitting right next to me is Robert Ricketts. He is an expert on computers, on the internet, ITCOMO. Good to have you here, Robert.
Thanks, Paul. Good to be back again.
I could just pick your brain forever. Today, you wanted to talk about the difference in our phones, Android and
iPhone. That's right.
Is there a major difference in the two?
Well, I mean, obviously, they're both phones that can make phone calls, text, and applications can be loaded, etc. But yeah, behind the scenes, there's quite a difference.
Now, was iPhone the first mobile phone?
The first, quote, smartphone, yes. I mean, we had the BlackBerry before that, and then the Sidekick and some flip phones before that. But what we would call a smartphone, all in one, yeah.
So what constitutes a smartphone?
Well, just that that you can load apps on it, that you can do multiple different things besides just talking.
Basically, it's a little handheld computer,
That's right,
isn't it?
yeah.
And is it safe to say that this little phone has as much computing power as one of the very first massive IBM computers that were made?
Oh, it's not only safe to say, but it probably has several orders of magnitude more computing power than those first mainframes.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
That is absolutely amazing. Okay, so what is the main difference between the iPhone and the Android? And is either one better than the other?
I mean, we'll let the listeners decide when we get done here.
Some people are iPhone people and some people are Android.
There's pros and cons to each.
Yeah.
So with the iPhone, the entire ecosystem is maintained and supported by Apple. The phone, the software, everything. With Android, Google, the company, updates and supports and writes the Android operating system. But the phones themselves can be from anywhere. The biggest Android phone maker is not even Google. It's Samsung. At least in the U.S.
Yeah.
In other countries, Xiaomi is a big manufacturer. There's other manufacturers, but here it's Samsung.
And Samsung only has the Android operating system. Is that correct?
Some of their models might have other operating systems. I'm not aware of, but certainly not iOS. Okay. So Apple and their operating system is just Apple. So some of the major differences between those two that a user, a phone person might care about is the amount of support Apple devices receive. So most Apple devices get 6 or even up to 8 years of support. And most Android models are limited to maybe as little as 2, sometimes as much as 4 years of support. So you have a much longer support tail. And what support means is operating system updates for security to make it less virus prone, new features that they add to the operating system. Apple is a little bit more on top of that and also, again, supports the phones for a much longer period of time.
Which phone is designed to last the longest?
Well, I mean, most phones kind of die an early death just because of the abuse the phone itself takes, being dropped on the ground, in the water, something like that. So oftentimes the phone dies an unnatural death before it would have worn out on its own. But to the extent you take care of it, I mean, you probably don't want to keep it longer than how long it's supported because of the need for those updates. So maybe you would not sell the phone and buy a new one or whatever.
Maybe 3 years, 4 years?
Well, again, with Android, the support length is typically 2 to 4 years.
How do you know if the particular phone that you have, if it's an Android, like I have an Android phone, it's 2 years old. How do I know that I still am going to be getting support from this.
So you would want to do a Google search on your make and model of your Android phone. Maybe it's a Samsung, so then what model is it? A Galaxy S, whatever. Then that will tell you how much support you're going to get for that phone.
And it'll tell you when that support ends?
Not necessarily when it ends, just how long the support is for that model. And you know when you bought it, and you can look up when the phone was released and then just add 3 or 4 years to that.
And then when they stop sending support, that doesn't mean that you have to...
No, and the phone doesn't quit working. It just means that it's no longer receiving updates from the manufacturer. So, and that could include security updates, which might make the phone a little bit more vulnerable to malware.
Does it mean that it can't be repaired then if there's a problem with it?
No, it could still be fixed. I mean, the screen can be replaced if it gets cracked. You can put new battery in it. It just no longer receives update from the manufacturer.
Okay, where iPhone does for a longer period of time.
That's right, 6 to 8 years.
Is that the biggest difference between the two?
That's a big difference, but probably to me, the single biggest selling point for the iPhone is the security. So that means data privacy. Apple is more concerned with data privacy, shares less data. So that's one aspect of security. The iPhone is a little bit less subject to malware in the first place just because of the nature of iOS and how they lock down that entire ecosystem so you can't download stuff
now,
from
what does
anywhere
iOS
else.
stand for?
Sorry. So iOS is the operating system for the iPhone. So iPhone operating system.
And what is the operating system for Android?
Android.
Just Android.
That's what it's called, right?
Okay, Android, the little robot that...
little green robot, yes.
Yeah, that updates himself.
Yeah.
Okay. The biggest difference between the two, as far as using the phone, is there any difference when you...
Not really. I mean, they both have icons. They both do the same things. Slightly different way of getting there, but that's minor. That's a minor difference.
Now, the Android phones, I thought they have designed them now that you can't replace the battery anymore.
Well, they're making them without the little lid you can pop off. So you can still replace the batteries, but it
you
requires
can't do it yourself.
Not easily. It requires heat packs and other ways of melting the glue so you can separate the halves of the phone.
Is it worth, if you need a new battery, is it worth putting a new battery in an Android phone? Or
if it's a high-end phone and you've only had it for 2 years and the battery's wearing out because you really use it a lot, then yeah, it could be worth it. Sure.
What do you call a high-end phone?
Oh, like a flagship phone that you may have paid $1,000 for.
Okay, that's called a high-end phone.
Yeah, right.
Okay. All right. You got it all down, and if people want more information, I'm sure you're going to have on your web.
Oh, yes.
What do they look for?
So if you go to ITCOMO.com, you'll see a green tab near the top that says Radio Friends. Click on that, and the notes are all there.
And you'll have all the information about the difference between the Android
and iPhone.
And the iPhone.
Yeah.
And the drawbacks and benefits of both.
Exactly.
Thank you so much. I appreciate coming by, Robert Ricketts. If you want more information, go to www.itcomo.com. All right? Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Very knowledgeable man. Ask him any questions, and he could answer them. Good to have you. When you go out and about today, be nice to each other and smile. Bye-bye.